entity which is autonomous and has an AI system to be autonomous and to do the physical stuff and knows about his environment or its environment and can make all of these decisions, but should never ever come into a situation making a decision for you that will personally affect you. This is where you put in a governance level where the agent tells the robot as a digital twin of yourself, this is what I want you to do, and the governance is so strong that the robot will never ever harm you.
So keeping the control of the machine in some sense and making sure that we can keep control of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my idea and what I described is, so you give everyone a digital twin, which
you have thought this through here.
Yeah, so the digital twin is with you. The digital twin is based on the AI capabilities around you, and the robot is just an agent. And you really can control the robot with the AI system that is your digital twin. So the robot will never ever take actions against you that is not approved by the digital twin. And that gives you a unique power individually.
So if I get it right, the distinction here is that this is what you highlighted, the AI for the human as the digital twin taking care of your objectives versus the AI inside the machine, which is a robotic entity. And here now we need the way we can exert human governance on the robot is through our digital twin.
Exactly. And the digital twin is actually based on your values. It's based on your experiences, where you are, where you come from, what you do, what you've learned, what you've seen. And it will really make sure that the AI systems connect in a very good way.
I really love this. I haven't thought it through in the way you have, Ingo, but I really love this, that we need the avatar as a way to transcend into the machine world in order to steer them.
Yes, but
we can't steer it as a human.
Yeah, but I would be very clear that it is not an avatar, because the avatar is more representing a physical entity, while the digital twin is the digital version of yourself.
Yeah, so this is a distinction we should actually make.
Yes, it's very important.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I love it.
So it's more a personal digital twin. So the twin is literally of you personally,
Yes.
not of the factory, not of a society or a city, but actually of you personally. And by actually having that control, what the other AI systems are doing, you can still keep yourself rather safe in some way.
But,
right? Would you agree?
Yes, it's exactly what you say, Anders. And I think that my idea was growing while I was writing the book and was thinking about human autonomy for people with severe disabilities and to help them with humanistic technologies. So I built this concept, but then I realized that in fact, the more AI we're going to see in the world, the more AI you need to protect yourself individually, so that the AI is connecting to all of the agents that will exist around you. So I'm seeing this as a very visionary approach to protect individuals. I think I haven't seen or heard this.
No, I haven't either.
But
it's a very noble and good idea.
But the crazy thing is, I can draw a metaphor and I can draw analogy to what you're doing, to what we are doing and working on with Scania in the simple topic: how do you enforce policy as computational guardrails and governance? How do we enforce governance? And what we are now working on a data level, so not at all, shows a glimpse of the same thinking. So in order to have governance of data, even for GDPR, a stupid idea like this, we need to have a way that we are codifying the policy as code. Now, in practice, then it means you build data sets and you build data in such a way so you can have that embedded in the data, so the data cannot be accessed and cannot be used in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And fundamentally what you're doing, you're taking computational governance to the extreme philosophical level. How do we have computational governance of AI from my personal humanistic point of view?
Exactly.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you're doing this, you're applying the same concept as we are, but you're moving into how can I have governance as humans? It's super.
I mean, policy and code
it works.
It's not really policy as code for a whole company. Then it should really be policy as a code, but for humans. Right?
Yes.
And that's the big difference, right?
This is a huge. I mean, I was just making the analogy that technically, I get it.
Yes.
But so it's completely feasible.
Yes, and I think the more we see reasoning AI, the more reasoning AI can perform those tasks without you making any decisions about it and protecting your integrity. And also, you can create a network of digital twins, which could be your family. So you could not control your family, but you could make sure that you have this level of protection also on a group level. So my idea, when I was thinking about, the specific experience from my own life with my son, born 22 years ago, and he was born with a syndrome that is very rare. So 1 in 80 million people is born with this challenge. And so he is on a scale from 1 to 10 at 0 on his cognitive abilities, his physical abilities, and his social abilities. So he's very much depending 24/7 on support. So my idea was to use technology and to find a different way to create assistive capabilities around individuals that make the individual stronger and would protect the individual far beyond the time of the caregiver's existence. And that is one of the biggest problems in life. So I want everyone to be kind to my son, and I want everyone to be kind to my son when I'm not here anymore. And I know that I'm aging, so my situation, it is like everyone else. The situation is not getting better over the years, and the day will come where I will not be there for him anymore. So my energy went into this thinking for 10 years. So it's not something that has developed overnight, but it is actually a very strong mission for me personally, which goes beyond my existence.
I like it as well because one of the things I've been having is are you afraid about the upcoming AGI time that we're probably going to see? I'm more afraid about the stupid AI we have today, but in the control of bad humans, than I am of having other AI system controlling other AI systems potentially if we have some supervision of them. And I think in some way you're saying that we need to have a digital twin of machines that protects the specific human.
Yes.
And that's the only sustainable solution. And I certainly think that's true.
I haven't really gone down this angle of thought, but the fundamental topics, how do we exert our human values and our human things in a digital world? And we need that proxy. We need that digital twin in order to be part of the machine ecosystem, so to speak. Exert our power, governance.
Yeah, and it's very humanistic, so it's very essential. It's very essential as well.
Yeah.
Such a great opening discussion here. And before we get even further into this upcoming very interesting discussions, I would like to just welcome you here, Ingo Paas. And you're the CIO and CDO, right, of Cargo Green?
Green Cargo.
Green Cargo. Thank you.
But sometimes we drive backwards.
So that's so the trains go backwards, then you Cargo Green when they come by.
But you're also famous. You have written books, and you have like award-winning prizes.
CEO award. Huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and very much looking forward to upcoming discussions here. So, but before we go into all of these kind of discussions, perhaps you could just briefly describe a bit. Who are you? Who is Ingo Paas?
If you would ask my wife, I think she would say he's an empathic idiot. Or a sympathetic idiot. So, I'm very much in a situation in life where I haven't planned to be. That I live in Sweden was not part of my plans.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from Germany.
Which part?
Düsseldorf.
Düsseldorf.
Yeah. So actually, ended up after studying, I've done a lot of different things before I went to university, and I was probably the oldest one sitting there and had no clue about what the others were learning. And I found out that all of these civil engineers in Germany, they're good, so they build great cars. I decided to not be part of this group because competing with them was difficult. So I ended up in a different business. So I joined Ericsson, and that was exactly in 1994 when the mobile Klondike rush started.
Right. Can I from wireline to wireless?
Yes,
radio.
Exactly. So I didn't have a clue really what it was, but I said, it's a Swedish company. It's cool. They speak a different language. It's cool, and it's also very international. That's cool, and they bring new technology. It's cool. So I better find out. So. And that brought me to Sweden a couple of years later. So I've done an IT project, and they've found out we've done something right in that one. So I got a lot of global responsibility at Ericsson for 5 years and having a great time learning a lot. My first boss, he was from Australia, and when I entered his office, he was saying something to me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He was from Australia. I was like, don't eat kangaroos when you speak to me. So it was like it was a beginning of a good friendship, and it's like it was really cool. So I went back to Germany when the .com bubble struck, and just 1 year later, telecom I think destroyed even more money than the .com industry lost. So we went back to Germany. We've got our 2 kids, and I joined Adidas at a point of time in my life where we were completely out of track. So worked with Adidas at the headquarters for 1 year, learned a lot about this global German company. And no one knows that Puma and Adidas are coming from the same location.
I
brothers,
know.
Someone know, Henrik. Yeah, you're cool.
I made my decision.
Okay. So and I was with Adidas and was really proud about that because I was wearing Adidas all my life when I was playing football. So it was really cool. And then the CIO asked me one day to come to his office, and I thought he's going to fire me. And I said, no, Ingo, I want you to be part of the new formed Area Nordic and take the CIO role. And I said, yeah, but what was the CIO doing? So I didn't know really. So yeah, he said, I can tell you because he was the CEO of the groups, and then we had some good talks, and now my family and I we went back to Stockholm and worked here for a couple of years, and I was
CIO Nordic
Adidas, and later on Central Europe as well.
For Adidas, yeah.
For 16 countries for Adidas, yeah. And then when it was time for me to move back to the headquarters, and we've done this once, so we said, do we want to do it again? And we said, no.
No, let's go. No. We're Swedish now.
Yeah, we started to enjoy Skatteverket. And
Skatteverket is good. We enjoy Skatteverket. Oh my God.
When you fall in love with these kind of institutions, you don't want to move.
Because you know how painful this shit is everywhere in the world.
But you contribute with good stuff when you pay your tax. So no, but in fact, I became a consultant, and 7 days after I became my consultant career, Lehman Brothers.
Lehman Brothers, really?
Yeah. So I went down, and I thought, I could have chosen a better timing.
Global financial crisis, 2007-8.
Yeah,
right?
I was 6 months without a job. Got fired, but re-employed the same day, and started 1 week later with my first project. That was ICA. Then this contract was only for 4 months. So it was funny, but then I got a new contract and tills vidare anställd.
Tills vidare anställd.
Yeah, only to leave just 3 months later, and I got employed by ICA. So it was this funny experience. So my consultant experience was really bad.
But I think I met you first time when you were you head of innovation at ICA? What was the actual title at ICA at that point in time?
Yeah, it was a very long title. We don't have the title. but the funny thing is, we've had some people, how can you be head of innovation if and then you should contribute to innovation, and innovation is everyone's responsibility. So it was a funny title, but it was difficult to really contribute with innovation.
And the ICA is also, it's a very Swedish company, a very Swedish organization structure.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the company was great, the people were great, I learned so much, but you also learn that you cannot really do so much. At the same time as you learn about the policy making in such a big company, you learn about the culture, you learn about the people and the network you need to create, and the relationships you need to have and everything else. So I became CIO of the pharmacy business, enjoyed this very much. But 10 years later, I left, and then I ended up at Green Cargo, and I was, it wasn't planned.
But was it 10 years? How many years at Adidas and how many years at ICA?
At Adidas, it was 7 years. At ICA, it was 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Oh, 10 years.
And then tell us, because I remember we having lunch, I just started Derdax, and you were right in between, ICA, what's going to happen now. And I'm not sure you had landed the Green Cargo gig when we had that lunch. You remember? 5, 6 years ago.
It was not a gig; it was more a big disaster decision in the beginning.
But tell us a little bit, like why did you? What made you go to Green Cargo, and what hooked you on it?
Yeah, but I need to say one word. I met Anders, and I wrote a business case about a company, and I thought, large language models and generative AI is probably on its way. So maybe I could start and build a company to get Gartner out of business, which was a big dream. But it's difficult. You don't do this overnight. But I was actually thinking about, the concept of, using these models to create personalized research based on your profile, based on your company, based on the projects you run and everything.
And now it's very close. Now we're there.
We're close. And I talked to some investors later on. Anders, you were also laughing at me, but you said the stuff is coming, and that was really cool. But you didn't have the time to help me.
But that's the same. You had lunch with me, and then you had lunch with Anders at more or less the same time. More or less.
Maybe it was the same day.
So funny. And we didn't know that. No. So cool.
No, but I had to pay Anders lunch to get into
your lunch. So he was more important.
But please, tell us a bit more about Green Cargo. What do they do?
Yeah, so you don't want to talk about the lunch, right? Okay, I understand that. I joined Green Cargo because they were looking for a new CIO, and I was I was meeting the CEO of the company, and it was like we did not talk about what I've done. We did not talk about so much about what he was actually looking for. We just straight started to talk about this problem. And that was a 2 long hour conversation, and he realized, I only had 1 hour. So, and then they called me and said, "You're welcome. So join us." And I joined the company not because of Green Cargo, because I didn't know so much about Green Cargo at this point of time, but I was fascinated about the discussion we've had, and I really felt that I could make a contribution, and the company is at a reasonable size. It's not that big, so maybe I
can make a difference.
I can be myself and not be part of this huge thing that always you always have 5, 10, 20 people who have an opinion, and you have to convince them. And
So how big was Green Cargo at that time?
2,000 people, 4 billion in turnover, Sweden krona. So very reasonable size.
Reasonable size compared to Adidas or,
Yeah.
So, and just a funny anecdote. My brother worked for many years at Green Cargo, and he actually left. Had nothing to do with each other. But just the anecdote is that I've been following Green Cargo through my brother for many years, and he left right about the same time as you joined.
Yeah, he heard that I was coming.
Yeah, he heard. I called him. You need to get out of there.
But please, for people that don't know.
His coffee was still on his desk.
So Green Cargo is actually a spin-off from Swedish Statens Järnvägar, right?
Yeah, you're well informed.
And please let us know, what do they do?
We're running trains, about 400 trains a day, so it's a huge and important business. I think when you look at the rail cargo industry, we're about moving 30% of the goods in Sweden, with a pollution that is much less than 1% of the total pollution. So the contribution for a greener future is amazing, massive, and this is a massive thing, and we do everything we can to make that business more efficient and to get our customers happy, which is difficult because there are so many limitations, restrictions, and problems. So the way we are running trains is one thing, but then there's the infrastructure, and then there's a timetable, so you need to really make sure you get your resources organized in a very...
It's an NP problem, the traveling salesman problem at the end.
Yeah, but we should not blame anyone else for our success or problem, but it's not... It's
a complicated system.
It's a complicated system.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And tell us a bit about your role there. What are your main concerns? What do you do there?
Okay, when I joined the company, I said it was a big disaster decision. The first thing I thought I should leave, because we all love information security, cybersecurity, and these kind of things. And I asked the question, what do you have? we have a policy, and that was just written on used paper. Like, it was not even a policy, and it was the same with everything else I've asked for. So I could not find anything that was good or anyone that was happy, or IT was not respected, and there was nothing. And most of the projects that the company tried to implement for many years, and there were strategies coming from McKinsey and Oliver Wyman, and they all failed. And then I came in, and we had a very complex infrastructure with 2 mainframe systems, one SAP platform that was completely out of control, the same for the mainframes, and then lots of ERP planning systems, totally disconnected. And I thought, no one who had the courage to do change, no one who had the skills to do it, and no one who was empowered, and I better leave. But my CEO said, I trust you, and you can clean it up. And I could make all of those decisions on my own. So when I was meeting with SAP the first time, and say we want you to go back to maintenance, I could make that decision on that day in the meeting. And I told these guys, because SAP is a great company, but it was not right for us at this point of time. So it's not about SAP. But I said, if you have customers that love you, you better focus on them, because I will not buy your proposal back to maintenance. These are the kind of decision that helped me to make a lot of decisions in a very short time, and to help to get back to a foundation. And instead of taking the responsibility of, which I was asked to do, replace all of these core systems, the 2 mainframes and SAP, I said, we don't have the money, the time, the resources, the skills to do that. And if we do that, we're going to be out of business, because by that point of time, in 5-6 years, we start with something that we don't know what it should be. You will solve a problem that is probably the wrong problem. And then we try to solve it in a way that we can never get it right. So it will be a disaster. So instead, we tried to solve the critical business problems. We put a digital infrastructure into place. We did this based on core principles. And the most single important word describing this architectural infrastructure is the decoupled architecture. It is decoupled to its very core. All of the platforms that we've built, all of the changes that we've done it incrementally, and we built that from scratch. And that was actually giving us the power to solve a lot of business problems. And during this time, the business has reorganized with a new CEO, and now we have a very strong business strategy in place. And now we are replacing all of these systems, but now we know why we want to replace them. So there's a good reason, and there's
not
a
just
plan.
Re-platform. Just all this money spent on just changing technology when we can't even explain why we need to change it.
Exactly. But now the business knows that, and they're better in explaining what they want. We still have a lot of hobby architects in the company, so they are making a lot of noise, but we're trying to deal with this.
But there was, I remember this, and maybe it's also one of the reasons when you won the CIO award, you did something quite interesting in terms of containerizing or encapsulating the old technology, and you used a specific approach to this. Could you elaborate a little bit on this? Because I think for many people who are stuck in legacy technical depth, they don't know that this is possible, what you did. Could you just elaborate a little bit about how you went about containerizing the old in order to take it in? I think it's a very interesting concept.
Okay, yeah, in our warm-up phase, we talked about people from Oxford. People from Oxford know that word. There's two words. I want to use the difficult word first. It's ambidexterity. Ambidexterity.
Ambidexterity.
If you haven't been to Oxford, and I haven't been to Oxford, I have Google. So see, you would not know what to do. Ambidexterity. So that word explains the difficulty of an organization being in two different stages at the same time. One is the exploitation, the other one is the exploration. And how would you do that in a balance to bring the organization forward and helping the organization to make that transformation and balanced and integrated move. So whenever you deal with your legacy, that means you have to use your innovation capacity to help the legacy to become better. And you need your legacy, because it's always from the core of your business, to do your innovation. Because if you do your innovation outside the core, it's innovation that doesn't really give you a payoff long term. So and then I here's the second word, the one that is much more easier to pronounce. It's composable. That's the one you were looking for, right?
Yeah. No, both of them.
So we've built a composable architecture, and that's really based on those principles I explained, without going into the details of the principles, but very much allowing you to build platforms. And I created this in my first book that I published in April 23, the definition of enterprise platform engineering. So if you would Google...
perhaps you can go to that book as a separate topic. I think it's a great segue into that topic.
Okay.
What was the name? You wrote a book called Digital Composable Enterprises, right?
Yes.
And can you just elaborate a bit about the principles and what your content of that book was?
Yes. So principles that you want to have in place are not the principles that help you to describe what you do in your business when you want to build a digital infrastructure. So the principles you want to have, they're independent of the business you run. So I give you some examples. One is interoperability. So whatever you build, it needs to be interoperable. Whatever you build needs to be robust. Whatever you build needs to be autonomous. Whatever you build needs to be in a as you said, decoupled situation, so that it's very strong. Whatever you build needs to be scalable. So whatever you build needs to be reusable. So you find those principles, and then you build your story around those. So when you make your decisions, you always ask yourself, is this a platform that I can scale? Is this a platform that I can reuse? Is this interoperable? Is it working with all of the other things that we have? Or is it giving me new opportunities? And when you solve a problem in that complexity, make sure if you cannot solve the problem with the platforms you have, you either add a product to those platforms. It could be on the analytics side, a Databricks or something similar, or you find a different way to build another platform that you can scale. So the first problem that you can't solve on the existing platforms should not be a new application where you try to build a platform. And what you can see is that you will find similar problems in most cases. Sometimes you just have to buy a system. But what we have seen, new problems created new demand on platforms, and then we created new platforms. And the funny thing is that the more you see those platforms, and from an enterprise perspective, and that was my idea about the enterprise platform engineering thing, is when you start building the engineering capabilities around those platforms and they are in harmony, you can scale at any level.
And I have to throw in some Elon Musk comment here as well. But he, when we have this kind of Tesla agile DNA, and one thing he spoke about is very similar to what you're saying here. But yeah, he uses term like very modular approaches, and if you have a modular approach that is decoupled, that means that you can actually work in parallel in much more efficient way. So you can continue to work with fixing a small water pump in a car, but as long as it has clear interfaces to the rest of the car, it doesn't mean you get blocked, or you can work in an independent and much more scalable way. Is that similar to what you're speaking about here, or?
It's difficult to compare myself with Elon Musk. He's much richer than me, probably much more successful in terms of business.
Not these days, perhaps. Yes. Okay.
But I think that if I look at it from the way we have reasoned these days, it's pretty much that we said we want to build an environment where we have all of the digital infrastructure in the cloud. So when we orchestrate the objects in our infrastructure, they should be as strong and autonomous as possible. If one object is failing, it does not have an impact on the rest.
Yeah. No, exactly. And this is, you can take this analogy with composability even into the future now. You can even argue principles like design to be replaced. Right now, with the technology speed we have right now, with the innovation speed, and even tech vendors coming in and out from Silicon Valley, DBT coming from nowhere, and now they're not even green behind their ears, and everybody's using their technology, and we don't even know if they're going to be around for 5 years. So design to minimize blast radius is sort of the risk mitigation view of talking about these topics as well. So I think this whole modularity or composability topic, I think it's the only way, because it's the only way. If we can take this all the way into AI and agentic AI and having agency of systems and agents. They need to be modular too. They need to be composable too. Otherwise, you're going to have different alignment on what an AI system can do and the agency of each team. So this composability modularity topic, I think, is at the core of the future.
Yeah, I think you can relate this to my favorite sport is football. In the US, they call it soccer. I don't know why. But for me, if you play football and you have a team, you can apply the same principles. When someone is having an unlucky moment and you need to replace that person, you still have to have a team that performs on the same level, and the one that comes in would just support the team in being equally strong as before. So you should not see that this is making a huge impact. So that would be the perfect team. And I think that it's the same for a digital infrastructure. So you need to make sure that the infrastructure is as autonomous as possible. And it comes into, it wasn't really clear what we were doing these days. So it was more when I was writing my book that I was learning about all of the decisions we've made and how we made it there. Because when I joined Green Cargo, I did not have that plan. I did not know what was possible. And so it was a exciting time to learn from all of the people around me and listen and support the decisions. That they were making a lot of decisions. I was only supporting the decisions and trying to get my arms around it. And while we were making progress, we could see that we could create stability. We could create, and that's I think one of the most important words in these days, resilience. And resilience in what we have done is the digital resilience. And if you would ask a CEO if your business is resilient, and the CEO says yes, because we survived the latest global supply chain wreckage, then yeah, maybe you did, but how can you be resilient if you're not digital resilient? Which company is digital resilient? So that's not the standard. So
no, it's not the
how
standard.
do we create that, right?
Yeah, and I guess that's my second question, because I think a lot of people would like to have a composable architecture and infrastructure, but it's not that easy to do all the time. And if you have some system that is dependent on another, or some old legacy, I guess especially if you have a legacy like tech stack and some ERP system or whatnot, and if you can't make planning around this because it's dependent on everything else and I can't move forward. Can you just elaborate, or perhaps give some example? How do you really create digital composable enterprises?
Yeah, if you look at the idea that we've created, we said we want to have an environment where the data is becoming independent from our systems, without building the platform for it, by just creating the various capabilities on those platforms. And at the end of the day, we ended up there without really having that plan. We did not know that we would use a graph database from Neo4j to build the ultimate experience of data innovation. And while we were doing these kind of things, we found out that when you have your exploitation and exploration problem at the same time, so when you have to balance this, so if you build innovation into your business and you build innovation into your digital infrastructure, you could use that innovation for the exploitation and support the existing systems. So you can use your local platform and you can rebuild capabilities, you can rebuild complexity, and then you can make your legacy more agile. So when we've done this, we moved from running 4 releases a year on our mainframe to 300.
Once again, mainframe.
We were having 4 releases a year.
Yeah.
We've had this in an outsourcing situation, and we've done insourcing, and we went from 4 releases to 300. And
300.
We had
so you're deploying small things all the time. That's what you're saying.
Exactly, because you need to make your mainframe agile if you want to do the exploitation and the exploration at the same time. So the innovation is not possible if your mainframe is your key problem. And we were told to replace the mainframe. We said we better make it agile. You can never really make the mainframe agile, but you can make it more agile.
Yeah.
And that was the idea, that what we have shown that it was possible, and to use the integration platform to make better integrations into our mainframe. And these are the things. This is how they support each other. And
But what I hear here is also, it's very easy to talk about this topic from the technology perspective, but what you're essentially talking about when you're going from 4 releases to 300 is that you're innovating on your engineering practice.
Yes.
You're innovating on how you're looking at the problem and how you're tackling problems. So that is maybe, you know, what constitutes a platform and a composable platform. Is it the technology or is it the practices and principles that you live by?
The principles.
Yeah.
It's not the platform is nothing else than just a temporary, let's say, configuration of your principles.
Exactly.
It's nothing more than this, but the platform is very complicated. You need to be very good in doing the platform. So you need to have highly skilled people. And when you move from zero cloud to all in the cloud, this is a huge thing in the beginning, but if you have the discipline and understanding why you want to do that, you also find the opportunities in the cloud. Like, you know, when you think about the opportunities from the large players, and you have your past platforms in place, so you can get so much innovation, and whenever you have a new problem, you just add a product and you can increase the value of your platform tremendously.
But I think this is something that this is almost too fast. Slow down here a little bit, because I see a huge misconception on what constitutes platform, and I hear huge differences when I hear people that has been at Spotify or working in a tech native environment where elite data engineering practice exists and where the platform evolved, yeah. Versus when we come to enterprise and we start listening to the vendors and we think the tech will solve the problem for us, and we don't even sometimes reflect on the fundamental practice or principles. And I think that's maybe one of the key ingredients here. You know, how do you do a composable digital platform in practice? You work really, really hard on the principles. Is that a summary?
Yeah, I would say so. And I would say that the more you build your platforms by defining platforms as a pre-built solution, the less you have platforms that allow you to be innovative and explorative. So I would say that, you know, I don't want to mention the big sales platform things that you can configure, and you can do this. I don't call it the Workday platform for HR or something like this. You know, you can configure those platforms and they call it a platform, but it's not a platform. This is something else, because the only thing you do, you configure in a given environment. Someone else is saying, you know, what you're allowed to do, because you have your limitations. You do not build a platform when you select such a thing. It's a big thing that's complicated, and it's forcing you to into something, rather than a platform that is holistically designed based on the principles, and that, you know, you can replace or you can change. So the platform was giving you the maximum flexibility and freedom in designing and solving business problems.
Yeah, but and then we can conclude that the platform word and what we mean with platform is so screwed up in terms of how we've been using that word and what it means to different people. And I concur with your idea what constitutes platform, but I hear everybody's the platform and every single vendor is the central platform. It doesn't matter if it's the marketing platform or is it the data platform or is it the ERP platform. And it's just a name.
It's just a name.
Do you have a preferred definition of what the platform is or should be?
A platform should be a very individual, autonomous entity of multiple opportunities that you can configure at any time in any way you want. And it's a multi-purpose. It should be multi-purpose. It should not be a single purpose.
And I want to add to that definition what you already said. I want to suck that out.
That was difficult, by the way.
Yeah, but the platform definition here is also about what constitutes a platform is not only the tech, but it's our practices and our principles that we have around any technology. We are technology agnostic, and yet we have a platform.
Yes. I think the thing with platforms in terms of business success is that you do not talk about platforms. You talk about the business value. So when we've done this journey at Green Cargo, we never actually went out with a plan or a demonstration or a PowerPoint stuff presentation, we said, look, we are building platforms. No one knows, no one cares. Because building the platform is the engineering thing that you need to own as a CIO and CDO. And when you build that, it's not important for the business. Like, when you run a train, you don't want to know about the steel composition of the wheels. You just want to have the wheels to run your train. So don't make it too big, but make sure that you have the ability. You want to ask me about scalable investment strategies later on, so that you can relate your platforms to such business value propositions. Which is not easy, but then it's not necessary to explain. Sometimes you need to.
But that's also, Anders, if we segue back to the question, give us some tips and tricks, how to do it, how to think. I test another angle here to jump. I'm putting words in your mouth. I think you're talking also about being super vigilant about business use case or business problem solution. You have ideas and principles that are platform fundamental, how to act and how to build. And then you viciously focus on a specific business problem that everybody understands and wants solved. So the business-led view on this must be a key point.
Yes, I can only agree, and I can reinforce what you just said, that when you have the right capabilities and you have the right data, you understand the business problem. So you need to have the data, and you need to be able to interpret the data and to make it available. And in this discussion, you always come to the conclusion that you can get better support when you come as a business person and you have a problem. Because with the data perspective, you can explain the problem better. And that's what our experts are doing on IT. They have a reasonable understanding about the business, not so much, but they have the data and they can help explaining the problem differently. And that helps a lot. But that, it's only possible when you create this clarity and the integrity of the data, when you have such a complicated legacy. So it's
super interesting. And you also speak about, I'm sure we should move into this topic right now, but you're speaking about this kind of concept of harnessing horizontal and vertical innovation. Mm-hmm. What do you mean with that? Can you just elaborate a bit more with those kind of dimensions?
Yeah, absolutely. It's first of all, it's very complicated, but on the other hand, it's not. So the horizontal innovation is the layer of platform innovation that you can use. Okay. So this is where you build the enterprise platforms, the composable capabilities, where you can bring innovation from Google, from Amazon, from Microsoft. You can bring in specific products and drive innovation. So you build scalable capabilities that will help you to solve lots of business problems. But you won't solve those problems on the horizontal layer, because this is your engine. The engine is not about solving problems. The engine is going to support the problem solving. The vertical perspective, this is the scalable view on having all of the business problems. It could be business processes. You should not always have problems, but I love to use the word problem because it's describing a particular thing that you want to solve, and it's not negative. So if you think about the vertical perspective, this is why you can build solutions based on the platforms that would learn from the solution you build and would only be enriched and would also inform other problems that you want to solve. But here you can use this and it will help you to solve your problem faster or better. So the vertical perspective of the platform is all of the problems you solve, which could be processes, which could be business cases, which could be everything else. And it is a scalable moment where you contribute to the business while they are visible, they are out there, the people know, use them, love them, hate them, whatever. But no one knows about the horizontal part as long as it works.
Yeah.
Can I see if I understand it right? You can also look at, let's say an example is that we have many different use cases where we need data and we need to share data between different business units. Each use case has a unique composition of what type of data they need to share to solve their business problem. This is the vertical view of solving one use case. However, in order to have extremely efficient data sharing, we might need to have fundamental investment in how we standardize on protocols or metadata or something that is in the back end in order for data to be shareable. So data to be shareable is not really interesting on its own. So this is then investing in platform capability in order to share data more effectively, in order to have that more effectively used, in order to have that problem solved more efficiently in each use case. Is that an example?
Yeah, I can refer to this problem in a different way now, because I can only be the observer of the problem, because I haven't solved it, because Green Cargo is a much more, let's say, well-defined business. If you compare it with Sandvik, for example, so you have strong business units and they're getting too much involved in the discussion about the horizontal layer. You should disconnect that, because then the horizontal layer could be the same for everyone. They don't need to know, but they are always engaged in, I want that Microsoft product, I want that Google thing, and I want this and that. And they want to build things because they think that they need the autonomy about the platform. No, the platform is like the infrastructure you need to drive a car. Not everyone would have to have his own highway, because that would not work. But major companies think that this is still the way to go. So if you disconnect the vertical perspective, then you can build as many cases on different business units utilizing the same digital infrastructure, decoupled and ready to run. You can have 20 business units with 20 different business models using the same analytics platform. I think you know it as much as I know. You have probably seen the opposite.
But you're pinpointing at one of the major enterprise challenges, especially in a little bit more decentralized, distributed enterprises, where I joke sometimes and say they hide behind the word autonomy, but they want sovereignty for the full back end, for the whole thing. Yeah. You see what I mean, right? So they are really arguing instead of having agency for their problem, but you should know where don't have agency for the horizontal problem. That's someone else's problem, and this becomes messy fast, right?
And it's difficult. And I think that
difficult.
It's much easier for a company such as Green Cargo, for me as a CEO of a small organization, to build these capabilities, especially if no one gets involved, because we had that luxury, so we could make all of this decision without having any discussion. I think the only platform that was up for decision for an investment with our board of directors was the integration platform. But it was a big investment because there was a compliance issue that we had to solve immediately. So it was a quite big thing. So we planned to do it in steps, but then we were forced to make a big investment. So, but otherwise, we never really made this too big. So platforms are not important for the users. They're not.
No, they're not.
They're not.
But I think it could potentially be easier to innovate in the vertical sense. So then, those use cases is easier to define the business value for. You can easily see they're potentially easier to break down as well in smaller parts. But how do you make investments on the horizontal layer?
That's a very good question, and we come to the other question. Can you combine the answers?
Of course, the scalable investment strategies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, okay, please elaborate.
I love that. I love that one, because the thing is that when you want to build a platform, you cannot go out and say, I want to build a platform, because which CFO these days would come and love you for that? Yeah. Because the first question is, a platform. What do you want to do with a platform?
What's the value?
Yeah, we have this business problem, we have this project, so solve it. Yeah. So then you buy an application, and then you end up with a very strong ROI. You have your business case, you do your TCO stuff, and everything looks fine because you can isolate that investment. But when you've done it, you may find out the problem was not really well defined. So you need to change it, and it doesn't really help us to scale. We cannot use it in the business units everywhere. And then you find out it was a bad investment. The difference to a platform investment and strategy, and there comes the scalability, is that you find out that the business has a problem. You cannot solve it with the existing stuff you have. So you build a new platform. So if that platform helps you to solve that first problem, you finance the platform, but you do it more, you don't talk so much about it. You just, build the platform. It's part of the investment. So you explain that you need to buy these things, you need to have those capabilities, and you implement the platform. And then when the project starts, if you're smart, you already have planned for it, because you need to first set up the platform. It's like going through an RFI and RFP. So you need the time to build the platform first. Never ever allow the first problem to define the platform. So make sure that when you build the platform is based on those principles that we discussed before. So you put the platform into place, and then when the platform is there, then you build the first case on the platform. And now you already invest into your platform. It's not ready because you have to do adjustments over time. When more problems come, you can do more investments on the platform, but they are much smaller and different scale. So you already use your platform to build new solutions. That is the scalable element of it. It's very simple. But if you have the luxury to make it work this way,
let's see if I get it. If I go the application-centric way, where you have a use case project and you need to stick with that, you end up buying a point solution. You end up even building a technology, but you're letting one narrow use case define everything, and you actually principles and framing requirement doesn't exist. It's only the business requirements for that use case. This leads to fragmentation and a lot of different point solutions. And going the whole monolith, we need to build everything at once, doesn't work either. What I hear is something like think big, think principle and architecture, what you're thinking about, but this is just a hypothesis. And then you allow your first use cases to, based on those principles, do the first pieces of the puzzle. And then you have an evolutionary investment strategy, and you're drying out the old by stepwise implementing production of use cases with a principal idea, think big. So the important thing is think big, start small, scale fast.
Exactly. I agree. This is exactly what we've done. The thing is that you will also build in the resilience and the flexibility, interoperability, all of the things we discussed before. I can use the example of our low-code platform. So we decided to implement a low-code platform. The business said, we have a problem. Wagon damage reporting. You have to build an app. Okay, we have to build an app. We had, until this point of time, never developed applications. That was difficult because they couldn't buy an application for that. Okay, so we should build an app. Shall we go out and find someone to build an app, or shall we look at this as an opportunity to build a platform? We decided, and I was in business for about, I think, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and someone came and said, Ingo, we want to look at low code. Okay. What do you want with low code? Yeah, we want to solve that problem. I said, that's not good. So that was the time when we started to really come to the point of making those more, I would not say intelligent decisions, because my wife would really...
She would oppose.
Heavily. She would say it was just luck. And what we found out there was in our discussions, and also the negotiation with the vendor, when we were discussing the final thoughts and our approach, it was not in line with the vendor's contract. And I said, I want a scalable contract, and you need to remove those burdens from the contract. Whenever I have to buy a package of application objects, when I want to do additional development, I need to come with new business cases on that particular cost. I don't want that. I want unlimited. That's the only way for me to build a scalable platform. You're already in the contract phase. You need to have that in your mind. But at this point of time, I have not had the time to think about it, because I was only running through incidents and problems. But this was the kind of principle thinking that you need to apply in every step you take. So it's a contract. What are my principles? Are my principles aligned with the decision I make or not? And if they're not aligned, don't make the decision. It's hard, but it helps you to find better solutions. And the local platform So we're using our systems. We're very happy with the platform, and we've built the modularity in a way that one of our tech leads came and said, I give you one example before I talk about this one. So we built the first application, and then the business found out, but that's not what we want, that we built wrong, but they did not know the scope. So we changed the scope. Then we split the application, and then we added another application that we built to the first half of the application. So we really modeled because it's so loosely coupled, right? And this was one thing, and we could develop other applications, and we never ever had a problem when we were orchestrating the objects into the cloud, while many other customers of our systems had problems because they did not follow that kind of decoupled principle. And that is a huge issue, right? If you start wrong, because if you want to have a platform to solve a problem, but do not think scalable, you will run into major problems, performance problems.
Yeah.
So, and then the second thing is that this tech lead came to me and said, Ingo, we have now built a new application, and that will be the last one we built. And I said, wow, are we now leaving our system? No. He said, no. Because of the principles that we've applied in all of the development, and we've also done mistakes there, but the majority was built loosely coupled. So he said, from now on, we are terminating the idea of building applications, and we are building loosely coupled services, meaning that when a user is starting his phone in the morning and logging in, the application is built based on the profile of the user. It's a dynamic application. So we do not define the application because all of the objects are so autonomous and independent. They can create the applications spontaneously.
Super cool.
And
hyper personalized kind of application. So
Yes.
it's actually changed to your needs and the context that you're in.
You get My Pages. So it's a subset of services and features, and depending on your access and what your profile is, your screen has these 5 widgets, whilst another one has 5 other widgets.
Yeah, it's mainly on mobile phones, and it's basically on roles. So we don't have 100 different ways of looking at the same stuff, but it's like the same role has the same profile, but it builds automatically. So we've tested with the first part, and now we are migrating now.
So this is what you meant. We are not actually building new applications for everything like now. We're having an architecture which is a fundamental GUI where we then add the services widgets appropriate to the profile of the user.
Yeah, and it comes automatically because it is connected to the Active Directory. The Active Directory tells which role it is that the user is being given, and based on the definition in the Active Directory and the application, the last application we built, it is getting the objects that build the application.
Interesting.
Have you seen many other examples going all this way? Because I think it's super cool.
And our systems have said that they haven't seen this somewhere else, and they are having thousands of customers globally.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting novel.
Would you say that like Netflix with their kind of shelves and even Spotify and others are in some way at least a bit like personalized applications? Could it be a similar kind of idea at least?
Not sure. I don't want to. It's difficult for me to compare with these monster development companies. I think they are so good in tech, and I'm not sure I could say something as an observer. Maybe you could. Maybe you could.
No, but I think it's awesome, of course, to have a personalized experience, and being able to build towards that would be good. But I think still, the idea of how to scale investments both horizontally and vertically is still very difficult, I would say. And if I understand you correctly, if you can do the horizontal one as part of a vertical one, that's a good start, and then you can try to scale from that. But it's easier said than done, I would say. But,
of course, but and you need to have the lucky moment that you are ending up in an environment where you have no other choice.
But there is this is a rabbit hole. We maybe should not open this one up. But I think what you have done and what you're talking about, in order to go this route, you also have to have the organizational construct and the mandate construct where people respect the different agencies of horizontal versus vertical. if I look at very large enterprises that I've been working on with lately, it's a political minefield. Even if theoretically people can, in principle, understand the ideas, in the end there are so many different agendas why you want to do the whole stack, or why, so they are not completely aligned as a complex system together, as an enterprise together, how that should be implemented, which I think then is, okay, a little bit smaller size, a little bit shorter from the CEO to the CIO to the VPs. So all these things makes this way harder if I go to a global setting.
And we've been speaking a lot about like enterprise kind of challenges and investments there in innovation. I'd love for us to also go into the more AI phase. And I think we have a number of topics. I think you have a big interest in more agentic kind of capabilities and what that could entail for these kind of solutions as well. So perhaps we can take that route shortly. But before that, Goran, perhaps we could have a short news break.
It's time for AI News, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
So we usually have this short break in the middle, not always super short, but we're trying to keep it short, and we just take a break from the discussions and continue to just have some personalized reflections on the latest week in terms of AI news. I actually personally been away on vacation and just came back like late last night. But I have potentially some topic, but I would prefer someone else. If someone, perhaps Ingo, have you heard about some interesting AI news that you heard in recent weeks that you'd like to share something about?
Yeah, it's okay if it's a bit older.
Of course.
Okay, good. I was, thinking about if you use the word willow,
yes,
people would think about it to say, if you use the word willow, most people would consider this to be a Walt Disney movie.
I'm thinking Google right now. But
yeah.
Please continue.
Yes, good. Exactly. So I wrote down some things because now I'm talking about something that I'm not really good at.
But it is one of my favorite topics. So it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole. So I will talk about it, and you will refine it then. Okay, Anders? Can we do that?
Absolutely.
So what maybe I should do this without my notes, and then you make it really good. So the idea is that when you think about the computational power that will give us enormous muscles in how we can apply AI in the future. So we need to find the use cases; they're not really there. But if you think about what is possible, you need to consider quantum computing. So understanding quantum computing is not my thing. I'm not intelligent enough for that. But when you understand what Google has done when they built Willow, they started 30 years ago. So the idea was to solve the problem of quantum computing, and qubits, they are running into errors because of the logic of the unclear definition of between 0 and 1 is indefinite. It's just,
yes, superposition.
Infinite, yeah. The superposition, exactly. Thank you, Anders. Here we go. The superposition. So that means there is an error rate, and that error rate is quite tremendous. And the greater the error rate, the less the computing power is useful. So you cannot scale on quantum technology. So what Google did, and the research team, so they created it's not scale, but it's an algorithmic solution to that problem. They solved that problem in a very smart way, meaning that the computational power of their chip technology, which was done on a theoretical benchmark, has such an enormous computational power that when I tell you the numbers now, you probably get impressed.
Please
yes,
continue.
The fastest supercomputer as of today would use more time, much more time than the solution that Google built. So Google said that it's about 5 minutes to run a mathematical problem, and then they applied the benchmark, and it's an RCS benchmark, RCA benchmark.
Yeah, the random circuit sampling.
Random circuit, yeah, exactly. Thank you. And when they applied that benchmark, they did a calculation, and I said it was a careful calculation, and they ended up with a number that is 10 at the power of 25, which is 10 septillion years that the most modern supercomputer would need to solve the same mathematical problem. To understand what that number means, I've done a calculation and asked ChatGPT. If 10 at the power of 25 divided by the age of the universe, it told me it is 725.6 times the age of the universe. So this is a massive thing. So if I can hardly understand 100 years of living, and when you hear that number, this is the computational power that is possible with quantum technology. So Ray Kurzweil, you were right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went into a rabbit hole here.
This is a rabbit hole where he will, this
It's okay. It's okay. I have to.
Yeah.
Now this is going to be a 3-hour podcast.
Okay, I'm trying to keep it short, but I actually have a big personal interest in quantum computing, and I wrote my first program in 2014 or something, quantum computing program. So, but I do think it's a big hype, and let me try to keep that shortly. So, for one, the Willow invention that they did, not innovation, using your terms, is trying to improve the error rate, as you say. And the normal problem when you scale up the number of physical qubits that you have is that they have coherence problems. So they get a lot of noise when they basically connect to each other. So they have the entanglement problem and then the superposition problem of the qubits. And as you add more qubits, the entanglement rate is going down, and they have increased decoherence problem that you see. Now you have similar kind of problems for normal RAM memory that is not quantum at all. And then you can say, I want to have super low error rate in the normal random access memory that you have in a CPU or a normal machine, or even in a GPU. And then you add extra bits to it, like parity checking, to say that as if some bit is flipped in the wrong way, you can detect that and correct it. And this is basically, as I would say that they did in a Willow chip as well. So they add error correction qubits to a logical qubit. And by adding more error correcting qubits, they can actually see that the error rate is not going up anymore as they add more qubits. So that's actually very good, potentially. But still, what they did, they had a 100 qubit system. They still had more or less a single logical qubit. So if you truly want to do something that is of use with a quantum computer, you probably need 100,000 or even 1 million qubits, logical qubits potentially. And still you have one now. But then potentially you can see that by adding more error correcting qubits, you at some point start to not go down in error rate for the whole logical qubit. And you shouldn't. I mean, as you add more and more error correcting qubits, you should at some point stop reducing the error rate. But you start increase physical qubits instead. So in short, what I'm trying to say here is a bit, and the example they gave with the RCS, the random circuit sampling, is basically trying to simulate a quantum computer with a classical computer, and I think it's completely misleading that that would be any kind of useful application. So in theory, there is not a single, in practice, there is not a single useful quantum computer today that is faster than a classical computer. And for that to be a reality, for it to be practically useful, you need to be able to scale up to at least thousands or tens of thousands, preferably millions of logical qubits, and then you can start to use it for some practical things. And we haven't seen it yet. And then, this is just the scaling. I can go into this kind of discussion of why I think it will be just increasingly harder as you increase the number of logical qubits. I have an own theory, which I call the conservation of complexity. But let me not go into it. But I think, as you scale, it will just be increasingly harder in an exponential way to keep the error rate down. I can't prove it. It's just a theoretical thing. But even if you could, if you listen to Demis Hassabis, he got a question about quantum computer. And Demis Hassabis is, is the AI lead in Google and previous founder of DeepMind. And even Jan LeCun is saying the similar things here. But even if you could scale a quantum computer, you could scale it to a level where it should be able to have practical use. Then the question is, will it have a practical use? And then Demis Hassabis compared it to AlphaFold. And AlphaFold was this thing that he received a Nobel Prize for in end of last year, where they could basically fold proteins. So understand the 3D structure from a sequence of amino acids. And that's super useful, and they did it like faster than anything else possible. Instead of having 5 years for a PhD that do a single folding of a protein, they now have done it for 200 million proteins and basically made everything available for free. Super cool stuff, and it's certainly well worth the Nobel Prize for that. He said basically, this is exactly the type of computationally complex problems that quantum computers should be good at. Optimization problems. It's like traveling salesman problems in trying to find how this kind of structure should look like. And to say that we can't use AI to solve this problem is very strange. There are patterns in the data that potentially AI is better at in identifying than have to do it the super stupid way of trying to check out every permutation possible. As for the random circuit sampling, you would never build a solution like that. So he believes also that even if you were being able to scale it, it's questionable it ever would have a useful value. So from two angles, I think it's super hard to scale, and even if you could scale, it's questionable that you should find a value. And it's not just me saying this; it's a lot of other people. But it's cool technology.
And then is to balance your sort of pessimistic, pessimistic angle. We can also argue that actually we are going into quantum physics, so we actually don't know the math. So
the math we know actually.
But what I'm trying to say is that there will be points that maybe we get to revelation how this is solved that we haven't thought about.
Of course, should always be.
To research it, yes. To go work on the problem, for sure. To see it in the near future, in a PC near you, maybe not.
I mean, if you take then from an investment, since we are speaking about doing strategic investments here, and then we think from an EU level, what should you invest in? Should you invest in quantum computers or in AI? And I heard a person, a MEP, a member of parliament in EU, once receiving the question of, why did you make these billions of euros of investing in quantum computers? Why didn't you put it in AI instead? And the answer was so idiotic, I must say, so I get a bit annoyed even thinking about it. But they say basically, since the tech companies are investing so much in AI, let us do something else that they're not investing in. But then Google are investing in. But still, it was the most stupid argument I've heard for a long time, saying we invest in something else just because no one else is investing in it. We could just invest in astrology as well. I mean, that's not an argument for doing it.
Yeah, but we had this conversation with people on the pod. How much is invested in AI machines? How much is invested in HPC in Europe? And now a fairly big price tag on very experimental research for quantum around the corner. And we've been even arguing, well, it's interesting, but maybe we can go to neuromorphic computing. We can go one step, if we are here now in the von Neumann architecture, the traditional architecture, what is a feasible leap? Maybe neuromorphic, that might be a 10-year horizon. Quantum, the argument here is, what is the time scale to solve this? And I think this is underestimated. This is what I hear.
By the way, what is your thought on China achieves quantum supremacy claim?
Google even made a supremacy claim back in 2019-ish.
Yeah. But what do you think about this one? This is from this week.
Yeah. So this is on the same story, right?
Yeah. Of course, I haven't read this, so I shouldn't say anything. But
I was speaking today with Christian Goodman was here. We were talking about quantum. So it is very interesting if this is true or not true. But if it's true, it's actually much better when Google is doing.
Yes. So very questionable, but I haven't read it. I shouldn't say anything about it.
Exactly. So I will put it in the list there, and then you can do it. It's actually fresh from this week.
Yeah.
So this is what is it called? What's the chip called?
China basically researchers develop a quantum processing unit that is 1 quadrillion time faster than the best supercomputers on the planet, which means like
a QPU.
1 quadrillion times faster than the best supercomputers in the world.
I mean, this is the Demis Hassabis argument. This is such a stupid argument. It's just assuming that we would do the classical computer implementation in the most stupid way we could, which we never would. But if you do it in the most stupid way possible, then potentially these numbers will back it. But that's never how you do it.
Marketing-wise, is great. It's quadrillion times faster than the best supercomputer.
Forget about 10x. I want quadrillion x.
Microsoft actually just a few weeks ago had another chip and quantum chip as well called Majorama or something. And, anyway,
let me take a lightweight news. Did you see Blue? Did you see the robot Blue? Yeah. So Disney at the Jensen at an NVIDIA launched the collaboration. Disney together with Google DeepMind and NVIDIA has been working on what is actually the Newton physics engine for robots. And the core topic is about to make robots, more expressive and act more, human-like, or to interact better with us humans. And of course, it is, if you can show the video, it's interesting to see. I mean, like it's full on Star Wars Blue. It's full on like a
R2D2.
Yeah, and what we're looking at here is the expressiveness of the robot. That's what the Newton physics engine is doing. And what is it like? Disney's going to use these in their theme parks to have to improve the experience. Having cool interaction, for the kids at Disneyland. But the innovation here, the technology here is this engine. It's called Newton. It's a physics engine for robots, and they're gonna So let's see. But any remarks on this? Any reflections on why do we need to have a physics engine so robot is moving more human-like? Why do we need that? Why is this useful? Or is it only gimmicky?
So I didn't read the details about all the GTC announcements, but I think Newton was actually the physics engine.
Yes.
It's actually similar to the digital twin you spoke about. So in some sense, you need to build robots, have the ability to build a virtual digital twin for the robotic physical environment, and to do that, it's useful to have a physical engine like Unity or something else that you have for games. But now they have something similar. I think what they actually did also was they open sourced, I think, a model for robots as well.
Yeah,
at that one, and that I think actually was really interesting. Let me see if I can recall it now. But they called Groot or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
Groot.
So
it's Groot, and this is the Newton physics engine, and it's literally trying to build an open source model. I mean, like in order for robotic applications to be able to, train them more. I don't know how to explain this.
But I think it's interesting with Groot, and I'm paraphrasing now, and I haven't really read into too much detail here. But I think what they did in that one was something really interesting. They actually went to the latent space kind of thing. So, other robotics solutions, like this is interesting for Jan LeCun as well. They have their kind of solution for moving into energy space for doing this. And we have Optimus Bot also working with this in different ways. But what they did here, they actually had the system 1 and 2. Yeah, right, that was the thing. So they had a system 1 part and a system 2 part. And if you remember the Thinking Fast and Slow book from Kahneman and others in the past, it's like the 70s, system 1 was basically the reaction, thinking fast kind of part of the brain that we have. And then we have the system 2 is doing the more long-term, deliberate kind of conscious decision-making and planning that we can have. And they did something similar for this. They had inputs which was a transformer as well, combined with text, if I recall correctly. And then they moved first to the system 2 part for the planning of how they should move the robot, for example. And then the second part, the tokens, basically coming into some latent space after the system 2. And then the fast part, the system 1 takes over and decides what actions to take given the output from the system 2. This is similar to like a self-driving car. You have the perception, you have the planning and control. So the perception then, of course, takes the sensory input, you move it through the system 2 part, and you get some kind of latent representation where you can do the planning. And then from this one, you do the control, which is basically the decision on what actuators to move. So this is actually starting to move towards the what we've been preaching for a long time, to do reasoning in latent space.
Yeah,
I think it's super cool.
And maybe another way to reflect on how impressive it is what we're watching. Everybody's seen the dancing robots from Boston Dynamics as an example, right? And here, of course, is like that has been built with a different type of machine learning or coding that is more business rule based, like the traditional robotics.
Not so much machine learning at all.
So business coded robotics, control system,
it's hard-coded rules.
Hard-coded rules, right? And they're becoming more and more and more sophisticated. And we're now what we're seeing.
Not that much.
But what we are seeing here is a fundamentally deep neural network learning how to do things, and an engine that learns faster and can also not learn to walk, but also walk in an expressive way. So it's a deep neural network. It's not rule engine. It's not instructional in the same sense. And then the way it's built, it doesn't only act with precision. It also acts with expression. Kind of cool.
But I saw some video of not the blue, but the other like humanoid kind of robots, and you can see especially the hand precision in being able to grasp or grab objects. Yeah. And if you compare that to the Optimus bot that Tesla has, or the Figure AI, or this Unitree, other Chinese robot companies, I didn't think it was very impressive, I must say.
No, but I think the one thing that stands out here is the fundamental expressive. The way it bobbles his head, it's stupid in some ways. It looks cool, but if you think about what it goes into making that happen so naturally in real time, I think it's quite cool.
But didn't it use like a not even English language? It was some kind of weird.
I don't know the details in more. And then we need to go deeper. Then we need to go deeper into the Newton engine, what that is all about. I don't know.
Anyway, cool that they are moving this phase. Cool that they are open sourcing things.
Any reflections on robotics and the expressiveness, or does this give you any creeps, or is it fun, or is it the right way to go?
I think it's kind of frustrating in some respect, because we're working on it for so many years, and we haven't really seen this kind of breakthrough. But yeah, maybe it's coming. When I go back into my history, when I was seeing the first Star Wars movie, I was quite some years ago. Yeah. So it was pretty much the same image, but I was not really a robot and not so much intelligence in that machine. But you got the impression, it's possible.
Well, but so what they did in the 70s in the expressiveness, this is kind of where we are now in movement.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Did you have
No, it was actually. I also had the GTC kind of thing, what they did there. But let's not go.
Let's continue. We have so much to talk about.
Let me round it up.
Okay, round it up.
This is like a very rounded up, because I think what is happening in a part 2 of this interview is very much connected to what I think is the future of let's say the next war within these things. And I think that is actually for sure it's robotic, and it's no wonder or strange that actually like Jensen is coming on stage with a blue, and I just like sit here and the robot comes there. We know that Tesla, we know that Nvidia, we know Intel, AMD, Boston Robotics, and Google now with the latest Gemini family, right? So it's Gemini Robotics and Gemini Robotics ER, I think it was. So more and more organizations are actually focusing on these models tools for robotics. And we can see that actually everything is going there. You remember a couple of seasons back, we were arguing where Tesla's money is going to come from by 2030. And we were discussing that approximately 70% of that money will come from robotics. And NVIDIA has been pushing hard on robotics for some time now, actually for 2-3 years. Which is super interesting, coming back to the topic that we're going to have in the second part. But I want to just like, I cannot hold to roast them a bit. So I was expecting that there's going to be a very big rise in NVIDIA stocks after this GTC, because they announced that I think it was more than 3.6 million orders of the Blackwell computer and etc. So I expected the stocks to rise, and of course it didn't. So it's still on 180. There was a little bit of spike, as you can see. This is in 5 days. So usually around GTC you have like quite a lot of instability depending on when he's speaking and how he's speaking. So there is a little bit of upswing there, but let's see how it's gonna go.
Yeah,
because
you can track Jensen's talks.
Yeah, but the worst thing is that so for example, I think that Intel has like a new CEO right now who wants to revamp the entire organization because they have been very late with the AI journey and etc. Right? So I think that they will be putting a lot of effort in this one, and their stocks is actually like plummeting.
So should I buy Intel or not?
I don't know what to buy right now. It's I will not provide anything at this point of time, but this is actually what is happening. If we're looking at Intel, for example, for a year, you can see that it's been declining quite a lot. But let's finish with the banger. I think that is the most important because
Tesla.
Anders loves Tesla so
I don't
much.
want to see this.
Here it is. Welcome to 70%.
70%
No, and it's not 70. It's from
For the
480, I think it was the maximum, to 234. So they are coming to the flat line, which is...
So zoom out a little bit so we see, because it's the whole thing that went up this year has come down again.
Yeah, so the maximum was actually on 444,
yeah, but
I
that
think
was
45, right? 48, and now it's on...
So if you look now, so we are down to levels that's sort of been the average line since, I guess, 2021.
2021, yes. That is actually when you find it. It doesn't mean anything because it's going to bounce back, but it's very strange thing happening with the market right now.
Is it a buy request on Tesla, or is it sell as fast as hell?
Well, if they focus on robotics, it's a buy. If not,
if you look bigger than the car and fuck the next Model Y and then talk about Optimus, maybe it's still a buy. Yeah.
Without making any statement in terms of buying or selling, or I think that if you do not trust a brand,
that's the point. I mean, like, so maybe
that is
this is a much bigger topic.
This fall is representing.
Yes.
It's representing. I mean, I had like the Nazi cross on my car the other day. I have like somebody came and wrote it on my. I have a Tesla, right? Yeah. So I'm picking up the car. I'm gonna go buy some groceries, and somebody put like the swastika on my car, and I'm driving like, full points. Like what? And we're going out. Somebody put the swastika.
Like in the dirt.
Yes.
In some countries, you can get jailed for that.
Yeah,
for sure. Yes, yeah, true.
It's a deeper question, because the way to predict this now, up and down, what's the potential in the company? Have you fundamentally lost trust in the company or in the management or leadership of the company? Then no one knows what the market can do.
No, and I would not comment specifically on any brand here, but if you
observe the principle.
Yeah, if you want to build robots, and you want to have a robot in your household, you really want to make sure that you trust that device.
Awesome. Well, let's get back to our awesome discussion.
No comments.
Ingo, and then jumping a bit more into the AI context here as well. And we have so many things happening now with generative AI and agentic capabilities and reasoning starting to improve, even though they are worse than humans still, to a great extent, I would claim at least. But perhaps we could phrase the question as, what do you see for potential business value potentials here in these kind of capabilities that we're starting to see in AI?
Yeah, I think that most companies are looking at AI more from a Mickey Mouse perspective. So how can we use chatbots to be more productive in writing reports or these kind of things. I think the problem is that the traditional way of looking at AI, you are data scientists and so much more. So the traditional way of building complex things is not what we might want to try to do in the future. So when looking at AI, I really see the opportunities by using it, solving business problems differently. So we talked about the green cargo case, and so I'm not a specialist in the field of AI, but what I'm seeing is that AI can help us solving problems that we would have never been able to solve, helping us to solve problems that we cannot even specify. AI will help us to solve problems without us building major applications. So as you said, Henrik, we do not have to define the rules. So a robot that works based on rules is just a machine. It's a very stupid thing that can act. But if you have a learning capability, reasoning, then you start understanding things differently. So at Green Cargo, we have complex problems, and it always starts with data, because without data, there would be very little AI. So in the perspective of applying AI, we are using AI, buying it in built-in product solutions from a US-based company. It's called Cedar AI, and they help us to do good stuff. But it's all built stuff that we just apply to our data, and then we run the algorithms and pay a lot of money for it.
This, in my opinion, that is for just the first steps.
Yeah, this is what everyone could do. You do it with a pricing engine. So we've done this at the pharmacy at Apotheke Hjertat, when I was at ICA. So we've done this on pricing optimization. So this is just you buy an engine. It's not really. I would not talk so much about AI then. But the thing is that when it comes to innovation and scalability, the things that we discussed, and now I'm getting back into to this kind of thinking. The idea is that AI needs to be part of the scalable environment. So if you consider composability as important and ambidexterity as the fundamental thinking of your enterprise, the way you want to do business, it helps a lot to see it as a platform, and you need to find the components of the platform. And the components are, as always, data. It's a good intelligent database technologies such as knowledge graph. So we are looking into Neo4j as a very capable tool. But then we thought about the business problems and what kind of generative AI model we should use. And one of our architects came up with the idea, look, we have these problems that we can't solve in traditional ways, so we don't know what to do. He looked at Neo4j. He looked at OpenAI's API. So we used a large language model, trained it against the data that we put on the Neo4j in a sandbox environment, and suddenly we found out that we didn't know that it was possible. So the combination of empowering with knowledge graph and generative AI was really giving us opportunities to solve business problems that we would never ever be able to solve, and it would cost us a hell of a lot of money. We would never be able to specify the problem. So that is we've done this in a sandbox of mine. Now we are going into production, and I can talk a bit more about this in a minute.
Super interesting. And just for people that may not be familiar with Neo4j, it's actually a Swedish company to start with, so we should be a bit proud about it, I think. But it's basically a graph database company, right? Which actually I know is investing a lot in AI now, and see how they can leverage their knowledge graph that you can build on Neo4j by also taking advantage of generative AI in different ways. But perhaps you could you give in some example, more concrete example of what did you actually use with Neo4j and OpenAI to build some kind of solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So we built a solution which is track and trace. Sounds like track and trace, so that we can see where the trains are moving and how they're moving.
Yes.
That sounds like that is something that you can do it on a package. So what should be the problem with a train? It is so much more complicated. So what we've used the knowledge graph database, and actually built a solution that our CEO 20 years ago promised to deliver, which was impossible since then. And it was possible because we used the knowledge graph, and we trained the large language model against the database. But there was a simple problem. But when you see the richness of the information, the details presented in that visual solution that we built on a local platform, so combining the graph technology, large language model we trained against, and then also our low-code capabilities with the analytics platform. So we brought a number of platforms together and solved the business problem that was unsolvable for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And we are the first in Europe having that capability. So that's cool. But we also use that to solve, we call this our operational problems when running trains. So when a train is delayed, it has an impact on the number of other trains. And all of these trains will be impacted. So there will be a delay in the network that is like a snowball effect.
Compounding effects.
Yes. And now the other solution that we built is by using the large language model, we trained it against the data in our graph database. And that is giving us the opportunity to see the impact and decisions that we have to make. First the impact and then the decisions of this delay on this problem that is occurring, and seeing the implications of that single problem into the network. And that is giving us so much flexibility. So we built another application to visualize this for the end users, to make it easy, because they should not think about using an AI tool. They should not think about using a graph database, because it's not really sufficient for someone being out in the field, or the one who has to make a decision in a second. Instead of using 7 to 8 different complex applications, including mainframe systems, to gather the data on one particular thing, they now can do it instantaneously and see how it's spreading into the entire network. So this is the kind of evolution from spending to about 30 to 40 minutes to find the data, in best case 20 minutes, and then just knowing about a problem that happened 20 minutes ago, rather than getting it immediately and understanding the decisions you have to make and getting recommendations, and also learning from the decisions you've made before. So this is one example we're now looking into.
Can you just perhaps elaborate a bit more here? I mean, for some people, how to train a large language model, it's kind of straightforward when you have like pure text or even images to train on, but from a structured data source like a knowledge graph or the graph data that you have in Neo4j, it's not as straightforward. Do you know any more details about how you took the data from Neo4j and actually used it to train a large language model from that?
Then I would have to call Anders. So it's probably it's to do with the name. No, but what we've done is we loaded all of the critical business data, operational data. So the entire infrastructure data that we can get for all of Europe. We loaded all of the information about our wagons, our locomotives, the people working on our rail yards, but also the people driving the trains, their competence profiles. We loaded the customer data, contracts, the customer orders, the information from the Swedish Trafikverket, weather information, and you name it, the cost for electricity, whatever you need to run the business, our timetables, into the database. And this information is helping us when we were running the LMM against that database to find out how the relations are actually impacting operations.
Interesting. So you probably encoded the data in some
way, yes.
So that it actually wanted to learn from it. Okay, and the way you used it is basically you can query it, given the information about what happened in the last 20 minutes or something, you can make it predict, what's going to happen in coming minutes, and how that is potentially going to be propagated throughout the network, or
in that specific business case, yes. We can see how the disruptive event is having an impact on our situation in the rail yard. We could even, in different cases, looking into what capacities do we have in terms of the resources needed to rebuild the trains. We could also see, how much space is on an incoming train, so we could rearrange the wagon. So there are different kind of solutions, and we are going into the deeper questions as we learn. So we are just about to moving away from the sandbox environment. We've put the first case into production, and the business is now using it, but we're also giving this at a later stage to our customers. So it's like, but they will not be in a situation to write cipher and do prompt engineering in a complicated way. So we're building the applications with the other infrastructure on platforms that we have.
Can I untangle this a little bit? Because you started off with saying, well, we see a lot of Mickey Mouse AI right now. And my take on Mickey Mouse AI is that we have consumer grade chatbot style interfaces that people can use for task augmentation, for personal productivity. Like I can get some help writing or whatever, and then we start implementing them, and we even have an enterprise license for open but it's not a fundamentally strategic understanding for what we need to do as a compound AI system to make this work. And what you are now describing is that you are trying to sort out the fundamental building blocks of AI compound platforms. So how will we manage data at scale, and how will we make different data relatable to each other? We think we need maybe Neo4j technology here. How will we drive this into a fundamental Green Cargo LLM, which is sort of a brain for us? And based on that, how can we now take it out into different types of front ends where the data is presented in such a way so it's useful within the decision data workflow of a certain person? So this is not simply a chatbot interface, but it's like, what are the key components that we're now adding to our platform philosophy?
Yeah, it's true. I think you described it very well, because it is actually we're not building application, we're building interfaces for the users to make the data, to give the data a certain meaning.
Yeah, and if you now imagine you're trying to take a point solution on each of those everythings, you would forget about maybe you would use a graph vector or vector database used for some simple RAG for one application, and you would build an app on that, and then you would do it again and again and again and again. It's still Mickey Mouse because now you're trying to build something that becomes an ecosystem around this.
Yes, we call this solution a digital twin. Because it is a digital twin, and it's actually representing the entire network, including all of the train operations, in real time. So real time is the definition of the frequency of how we are updating the data streaming part in our analytics platform. But in this perspective, the digital twin is a digital copy of our business model in real time, and it's telling us everything. It's going so far that when in the visualization part that we built for problem solving, which is not implemented, we are now testing it and verifying it. You can see the driver of the locomotive and the telephone number of the locomotive. You see the exact position of that locomotive. So it's things that were completely invisible and impossible before to communicate. So even small things follow and make every day easier for the user. It's not just the big innovation. It is sometimes just the small thing that makes it much better in the future. So it's a huge thing. And there's another thing that we will see. It's like it's in Swedish. It's called route compatibilitet. So to make sure that all of the conditions for running a train in a certain track in a certain direction and between two destinations is approved in line with the rules and regulations, which is very difficult because there are so many parameters, and each wagon individually with the load and all of the other technical details needs to be considered in that calculation. This system can spot it out like this. It's there.
And it's not hallucinating when doing so, I think?
We will see. So it's like we're gonna have to do all of the risk assessments. We have to look into it. What we can see is that we will have risk, we will have issues, but we know that it will be so much, as the risk will be different. There will be new risk, but we will eliminate a lot of risk that we have today without knowing.
And if I may just challenge your question or your presumption here a little bit about Mickey Mouse as well, because I heard someone phrase it, I'm paraphrasing now, but I think that the big innovation comes when you really disrupt the way you're working, you're changing, perhaps creating new business processes you didn't even have before, or redid the existing one in much better ways. I know even like in Spotify times, we can say that the Discovery Weekly was a disruption in terms of how you build a product, because it's doing something that was completely impossible without AI. But then he said also that, it's much harder to do the disruption part. It's much harder to build completely new business processes, and it's much harder to do the onboarding and change management necessary to really change how the business works today. So the best way would really be to start with optimizing the current processes, because it's easier to have people become more productive potentially with the existing way of working without having to change all of the current processes. So it could actually be good to have a two-step process where you start to optimize existing ones because it's easier and not requiring the same change management, but then later do the big disruption. What do you think about that kind of?
Yeah, I think what we are doing right now is we are optimizing existing processes, because the only difference here is that we never ever had control about these processes. So we were managing every day, every hour, every minute. But we've done the same process, but very manually and very, let's say, not with the intelligence that we now could use. There's I can give another example. When we are running trains and the train is late, we are getting a notification from Trafikverket, and then they identify the reason for this delay. So this is defining who has to pay for the delay. Either it's Trafikverket or Green Cargo. So we built an application before with low code to give two people the opportunity to look into those cases and organize them. With the graph technology, the graph is actually understanding all of the delays in real time everywhere in the network, organizing those delays and prioritizing them, and giving us the opportunity to give all of the data that is related to this specific case to Trafikverket in real time, more or less, if we want to do that. And that is completely different to, having two people sitting there and then he's calling, what was the weather situation on the 25th at 8 o'clock in the morning at this specific location? What was the cost for electricity and blah, 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 blah. And, but now do you get all of this prepared, prioritized and organized, packaged, ready.
But I used to follow up on what Anders said here, because we used the word Mickey Mouse, and I think the distinction here is actually you are improving on existing processes, yes, and you're reinventing them in small pieces. And maybe what I picked out when you said Mickey Mouse was more that it is not enterprise oriented, it's like more personal productivity.
Yes, exactly.
So that was the difference. And that might work for some stuff, but it's not really changing the company. It's changing me as an individual, like I'm using a laptop today.
Yes, you have more fancy images in your PowerPoint presentations suddenly. So a train that...
I think you're underselling it a bit.
You're underselling it, but I like
with personal productivity, right?
But I liked it very much in distinction between personal productivity. Let's not call it Mickey Mouse. Let's call it personal productivity versus enterprise grade. I think that's the distinction we're talking about here.
Exactly, it's right. So Mickey Mouse AI is not negative. It's but it's on a completely different scale. So I think that, as you say,
imagine the 2% productivity gain for all the employees in a company. It could be a huge
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So
absolutely.
You're not allowed to say Mickey Mouse. You need to say personal productivity.
I will not say Mickey Mouse.
Say personal productivity.
Look, I think I fully agree with what you say, Anders, because if you raise the productivity, but you need to look at the kind of stuff you have in the company. So if you have 2,000 people and 200 work with administrative tasks, and you would only have those 200 using it, and most of the productivity you can do with AI.
I would actually recommend, if someone would like to look more into this, there were actually a study coming from Stanford just the other week, like 2 weeks ago, And they looked into the current way of working and different processes and how much generative AI could help them in terms of gain. And it was actually much more than people have seen before. And people before have said like, per 5-10%, but they were speaking about like 60% improvements in a lot of use cases. And it shouldn't be dismissed too easily, I think.
No, absolutely not.
But let me, but to curb your enthusiasm, because there is if I go to the very large enterprises, and maybe you have such a complex system, so you also have what academically is referred to functional stupidity. So when you have processes where they don't have the fundamental feedback loops needed, so you are making decisions based on a subset of data, and you're not respecting how many different feedback loops goes into a decision, referred to as functional stupidity, or the unaccountability machine if you read another book on these topics. This is a fundamental problem that even if I raise the productivity of each person, and I'm fundamentally then improving productivity, I'm not really improving intelligence, so to speak, in the enterprise. So I think there is a huge case for the personal productivity gain, but the personal productivity gain will not fix the broken underlying lack of intelligence in some decisions.
I think everyone wants to have the big disruptions, yes. So I think that's the goal in the end, of course. Yeah. But I think it shouldn't be problematic to start in a easier way and get people used to using AI and actually having them adopting that technology by itself. So even though you want the big disruptions, perhaps it's not best to start with only that.
No, and I think this is a profound comment, because in order for get people into seeing the broken processes and all this, they need to understand the art of possible. And literally by becoming more data and AI literate in your own bubble, you start seeing the enterprise opportunity in a different way. So this is a big point. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think also it can be useful to just have people understanding the possibilities of AI, and thereby providing more innovation. So I think back to your point, either we have a data science team somewhere that come up with very advanced solution and pushing that into business in different ways, or you learn the business to become AI literate and they come up with innovations and the best way to create new processes, and that potentially that could be even better. Yeah,
but I think that looking at the things that I was talking about, and the way we look at the digital twin is nothing that is owned by IT. Okay. The digital twin is a democratized capability that everyone can use. Yeah. And when the business has a problem, they explain the problem and someone helps them to reorganize the data to solve that problem. And if that requires, because there are hundreds of people involved and they want to have a simple interface, then we add a low-code interface to it. So, but this is they all have access to the data. They can also work with Cypher. They can do prompt engineering. So, but the difference here is that it is not about the individual working with email or working with a report or working with the next mathematical problem. Yeah. So we are turning the entire business model with all of the operational data into our AI core. And giving everyone the opportunity to use the interfaces around that core. So when you digitalize, and that comes from what you said, Henrik, from the composable idea that you build all of these capabilities. So you make it all accessible, and that it was one of the key things in the analytics world. In the beginning, we were building the reports, and then we said, we stopped doing that. We do a data engineering. That's the only thing we should do at IT.
Yeah. And good, because I think I also like the way you speak about platforms and saying actually these kind of Gen AI possibilities and reasoning technologies can be a platform for other people to use as inventions and innovations on top of it.
Yes.
And that is really when you scale the value, I would say.
Yeah.
If you come to that point.
Yeah, and this is the plan. So we're looking at this. So the combination of the generative AI capabilities with our I think Neo4j graph knowledge database in combination with the other parts. So this is a new platform that we can scale, because we talk to HR, we talk to our market people, to our sales people. They found out they can sell more capacity with it. No. So this is the same platform. It's just, we're using the same data, we're using the same logic, everything is the same. So they can sell more capacity. They can look into pricing issues. So they can inform the customer. They can give customers
a proper platform.
So it's multi-purpose.
But can I stretch this a little bit? And there's been Sebastian, the CEO of Klarna, made a nice LinkedIn post where he sort of made a little bit more explicit explanation, why are we leaving SaaS? And the backdrop is that a couple of months back it came out in US media that Klarna was getting out of Salesforce, and Mark Benioff had to sort of defend that on stage. So Sebastian got super, as he said himself, embarrassed, right? And what he's arguing for is like exactly these topics. We are starting to rethink our architecture AI first. So basically the way we do. So when people say platform, we lose them directly if they are not on your idea of platform. But if we are starting with defining platform from principles and something evolutionary, then now we put the fundamental of data and how data can be accessible and how we can now leverage that in different ways. Now we are starting to build an enterprise architecture, which is actually designed composable in order to then do whatever we want on top.
Yeah,
and this is different architecture than an application-centric architecture. Yes. And it's slightly different even to a data-centric architecture.
And I fully agree. And I think what you can see, we hate SaaS, but we need SaaS as well. But when we look at SaaS, we want to integrate it as much as possible, and we make very strong statements that we never use their integration engines, we never use their data platforms and analytics parts. So it's only if there's pre-built stuff that is just general things that we could easily use. But we limit the impact of the ecosystem as much as possible, and really try to restrict it to the SaaS skill, like the applications built around many decades of knowledge in an industry, so something that we don't have, so we use it because of that knowledge is built into a solution. But then we integrate this and make sure we use the data. We're only interested in the data and then support the business with the process. So SaaS is not good. We hate SaaS. But we make it work in our environment.
But this is super important now, because I think we now need to maybe, for the listeners, distinguish the difference between PaaS and SaaS, potentially,
very much,
right?
I agree.
Because here, we're talking about cloud technology, and depending on how we use it, it's infrastructure as a service, or it's platform as a service, or it's software as a service. And when we are saying software as a service, we are basically going into a pre-configured view or point of view of a vendor, how you should work. But if we have principles, our own platform principles, what is our fundamental beliefs and values, how we architect, engineer stuff, we are having a past view of which technology focus in our evolutionary platform. So it might be that we're using the same technology, but we're not using it in a SaaS way. We're using it in a PaaS way. Sometimes to build a very niched application with a lot of domain knowledge. Fuck it, let's get the SaaS on top, but we want to decouple the data still, stuff like this.
Yes.
Am I summarizing it? Because I think it's really it's a very strong statement to say you hate SaaS. That's what I'm trying to,
There's also another reason why I love PaaS, Platform as a Service, because it's my second name.
PaaS.
So PaaS is Platform as a Service. So, and I
Ingo
also
Platform as a Service.
Yeah, exactly. IPaaS, Infrastructure Platform as a Service, or IP, Internet Protocol. So my name is very much digital. So that's the reason why I'm into PaaS. I cannot do it any different.
I'm not a SaaS guy.
I'm not a SaaS guy, I'm a PaaS guy, so that's why I hate SaaS. It's not that SaaS is bad, I hate it because of my name. So, but I have to be proud about something in my life, so that's my second name. But the thing is that, in terms of the definition between PaaS and SaaS, and I fully agree, a platform as a service from our perspective is what someone is offering us, and then we be selective on the components we use from that platform, and we can refigure and we can rebuild it.
You own the practice. You decide on the practice.
Yes.
Not them.
And then the SaaS comes into the game. We have to integrate it into our platforms, and we prioritize our platforms when it comes to integration, analytics, and these kind of things. We talked to one vendor that was saying, we give you that PaaS platform, we give you the analytics platform, we give you that integration stuff. We said, no, because it's not as good as ours. I was like, not being arrogant, but we looked at it very thoroughly, and it's the same with these SaaS vendors. When they come, they have the industry knowledge, but they are probably not good in building applications around it. So the mobile applications, when we look at their capabilities, the business first, it's everything we've ever wanted, and then we say, but look, this none of your users would probably use it because no one would understand that user interface. So we build it this way. Isn't that better? It's different logic, and at the end of the day, we're using our low code. So because we can build those applications better than what they are when you buy the applications on those. In some cases, it's not necessary because it's not a business priority or business value.
And better could simply also mean, in order to fit, be usable and adoptable in our purpose, we actually don't want to go down left here. We need to visualize the information in this way, because otherwise we need to redraw the whole map of how we work.
Yeah, you need.
Yeah, the time is flying away here, and we have some awesome topic that I'd love for us to be able to cover, and I think especially the one about your upcoming book potentially.
I love to talk about that.
Yeah, so please let us know. It was called what was it? Empowering Human Autonomy. Was that the name of it?
Yes, and if you can't make it, fake it. This is my first book, but I put a new envelope on it. So this is the new book, but it's going to, the release is planned for, and it's not a sales pitch. It's more, I'm going to talk about it very differently in a moment from now. But it's going to be on Amazon, but it's late April, beginning of May.
But your first book is on Amazon. This is called the Composable. If everyone is interested, what is your book? If they want to find your first book, what was this?
Yeah, it's called Digital Composable Enterprises, and if you use platform as a service and you look for PaaS or you at Ingo, you find it. But the thing is that this book is something that is based on a experience that I wish very few should only make. That's back 22 years ago when our kids were born. It's always a very heartful moment to talk about it, but it's like the experience when you prepare for the greatest moment in your life, having kids, and then something very disruptive happens, and that was a moment where we've gone through hell, and since then we are in 24/7 care for our firstborn son. So we had twins, and it's a very special situation when you realize that there is no hope for improvement. It's only probably getting worse, and without knowing what it is, and waiting 18 years to get a diagnosis. And as I said, it is a very rare disease. 18 years.
18 years so now you have a formal diagnosis.
Yes, and it just came in the beginning of the pandemic. So I got a telephone call from Karolinska, and I said we found it, and they were really working hard on it for very many years. And my son is completely unable to communicate. He is unable to move, to do anything on his own. He learned to hold a spoon, and it took years to teach him this, and he can get the spoon to his mouth, and if we put food on it, this is what he could do. He would do it also without food. But he cannot, chewing is not possible for him. So it is very specially prepared food, but it is the same quality of food that we have, so he could experience it in terms of everything else. So this is just an example of what he has learned in life. This took years for him. To be in a situation as a father of a son in that situation, and his twin brother, you also need to make a lot of decisions. And my wife and I, we had lucky enough, a very good discussion in the very early beginning to treat everyone equal and make sure that no one is left behind. But no one's left behind, and having this kind of situation where you cannot support your children and you can never communicate, never exchange a word, it's very difficult to handle. And then making all of the decisions, fighting for all of the small things, every day and trying to be there 24/7 to support, to handle diapers, and this is my reality, and I'm working hard on being there with love and dignity and everything that needs to support us as a team. But there's one thing that is particularly hard. This is the idea of leaving one day without being able to support my son anymore, and at that particular point, knowing that he might not be treated well, because I know how much it means for him to be there with love and to be close to him. I've learned how much he appreciates this and how he reacts, and I hope that this is going to be like this when I will not be there, when my wife will not be there anymore. And solving this problem is impossible. And I found the way, and I was working on that problem for very many years. And I'm not technically advanced in terms of, you have that great advantage of knowing AI, Anders, but I've used the knowledge I have and to work on bringing love and technology together to find a way to think different. And the way how I look at assistive technologies as of today, they are pretty much like enterprises react. They solve individual problems, but they are fragmented. They are disconnected, and they are often built around the knowledge these people have. Meaning that the horizontal and vertical layer does not exist for those technologies.
Interesting.
So this was my starting point. I had to solve that without knowing how.
So you're trying to figure out, or you've been like a 10-year thinking process, thinking deep on what happens when I'm not here with my son. Is like, what can technology do for him to make him more autonomous, even if so many things is not functioning in this sort of physical approach.
Yeah, which is the same as of today, because he needs to be protected by the ones being with him, and that requires that they love him, or at least appreciate him very much, to be there and to make sure that he's doing well, because he will not be able to communicate, share, and say no or say yes, so tell me what has happened or what hasn't happened.
We spoke about this in the beginning a bit, and I thought it was, I think, a very profound solution or way forward here. That you spoke about the personalized digital twin. I guess this is what you're referring to.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate a bit more? How would that work? If the horrible day comes where you cannot be there for him, how could he potentially, or how can you help him continue to have his preferred way of living? So
tell us the vision.
Yeah, I can tell you. So in my book, I looked into I was describing the thoughts in my mind to share it with others, to explain how I think about the opportunities with assistive technologies and turn them into more responsive, humanized, personal, digital assistive technologies. So the idea is that instead of building fragmented solutions, I want to create a digital twin. The digital twin is the vertical part of the innovation, and that is connected to the individual. The digital twin is part of an agentic network with agents, and the agents are creating a relation. Could be a robot in 15 years from now, in 10 years from now. That is a connection to a healthcare system, but it is mainly the connection to the caregivers and people around this individual. So the digital twin is connected to all of the caregivers around and building that ecosystem that is protecting the individual from all of the harm that could happen. I have developed around 10 global use cases. They are very specialized and detailed and explaining in different ways how these kind of capabilities could help in the future when you look at the power of reasoning AI and the contextual ability, also the contextual situation that the AI could understand and interpret and also translate into actions. This is where sensor technologies come in. So biodata could be measured. So you could measure the state of the individual. You could find out and continuously repeat and measure the well-being. That could be any kind of data that you could use. So the data would give you an image about the well-being of that person. Imagine you would have a caregiver with him that is not doing well. So you would see that in the data, you would see it in the patterns, and you would see this in a kind of report. It could be a dashboard, and you could have a discussion with that person pretty much as you would have a discussion with that person if he would serve you and you would not be happy. So someone else could take that dialogue. So that is one way of measuring his well-being with this individual, which could be very different to his individual and well-being with someone else.
And you used a phrase earlier, I think it was before the pod started, that I think is a way to if you can elaborate that to even frame what we're talking about exactly now. You used the phrase the AI for the human versus the AI in the machine.
Yes.
Could you, because what you're highlighting here is that something is very close to the human, and we are trying to set up the policies for how this AI works as the digital twin. That is it's an extension of the human. But in order for this extension of the human, and this particular case where the human is incapable, needs to be able to interact with the machines, like systems, healthcare systems, whatever. And that now is the distinction between we build AI for enterprise, so to speak, and here's the human digital twin that then can interact in machine to machine, so to speak. So this is the AI for the machine versus now the AI for the human. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mentioned the healthcare system, but they are just a very small part of it. But it will also be important to to understand all of the examples of the details of the use cases. That could be like if you are in a room and it's too cold, you would change the temperature. The digital twin could actually do that for you, right? If you are in a room and the noise is too much, the digital twin could adjust the noise because it will recognize you're not doing well. It must be the noise. So the digital twin could inform you as a caregiver that without the individual being able to say or identify that, I need to go to the restroom because you can read the biodata. So you have diapers, but you will avoid to you don't need them in reality, but you should have them.
Okay.
So the digital twin could also do a lot of other things. The digital twin could be your lawyer in terms of taking over the administration of the processes where a caregiver, when I'm not here anymore, my son is going to be very much dependent on the people who would take over this responsibility. Yeah, if you imagine you have someone who is not good in arguing, who does not understand law, because this is what we need to do. We need to understand law before we send an application. So to really make sure he is receiving the help he deserves according to law. So the digital twin would be the lawyer, his lawyer. He would monitor these kind of applications. And ideally, in a couple of years from now, you would automate all of this. So the digital twin would be the lawyer knowing all of the law. It would know his status. And what you could do instead is that you would have a digital passport that would explain to all of the authorities that needs to approve those applications for parking. That could be for having a transportation services or whatever. They would always have the updated information. They would never ever to send an application again, because you would be in a situation the digital twin is owning that information. It's very personalized. It's very much in integrity of your data that you protect, and then you could send that status information to another agent, digital agent, and you would not have to do those processes anymore. So there are many more cases.
You can take that into the whole. How do we have our identity back on the internet? Even today, right?
Yes.
Do I read the way So there are so many layers on that. There's an argument for the digital twin.
Yes.
And you mentioned a very personal, important one for your son, of course, for more physical and mental, well-being or health issues. But it's easy to see potential other use cases, right? Which you're saying, like a large number of them, which I'm not sure what the proper term is, but I think you phrased it well with the digital twin for the person, like hyper-personalized kind of experience. Someone really understands. I guess it goes back a bit to the butler kind of metaphor. For a while back, someone tried to phrase what is the optimal AI for a person. They said, it should be a butler. Why a butler? Well, a butler knows you very well. He understands your preference. He will, review your mail and only, ask and interrupt you if you really need to and want to. And having someone that really knows you very well and wants you very well would be an awesome experience in some way.
I agree. I think it's a wonderful description of what is coming from my heart, because there's a lot of technology, but it's coming from my heart. It's very deep. It's very important, and it's very sensitive. So the idea with the digital twin is also recognizing the need of having a kind of very personalized experience for everyone, because you cannot set a certain definition of this is what the digital twin should do. The digital twin should do what you need. So it needs to be very
customized, individual.
It is extremely individual. So the digital twin should also see what is it that the digital twin could do for you long term. So I think that the contextual data that the digital twin would own, it would own your agenda. It would know where you are. My twin son, so Julian is his name, he would be in a very different situation in a couple of years from now if that would work, because he would always know how his brother's doing. He would always know, and he could take actions on it without being physically on site. And we need to be there on site every time.
Have you followed any technology progression? Because like the butler idea, or this, like we even see the technology as R1 coming out as the assistant, like the apps that owns all apps. We are getting tired of having thousands of apps on our phone, which is really highlighting that we cannot have more fragmentation more. So at some point, when this is exploding in productivity and scale of information that we need to deal with, we need to have something that is us.
Yes.
This argument, I've seen different arguments on it, but have you, circling back to the question, have you been looking at technologies, or are anyone working on this problem, building the digital twin, or going in do you see examples of fragments of this thinking?
Yeah, I think that I was just recently talking to someone from KTH, and there are some attempts on particular problem areas to build kind of something similar, but the holistic view has not been addressed. So I've done so much research. I looked. Maybe there's someone else out there doing similar stuff and having similar thoughts, but if you look at the system as such, it's like enterprises. They're like having many divisions. They all work against each other. They all have their different agendas. It's the same with the investments that we can see in assistive technologies. The doctor who is specialized in the field is building a solution that is solving a problem in his field. He is having a budget that is supporting a certain thing. He would never ever build a horizontal infrastructure because it is not his problem. All right. Right? And that means that it doesn't matter how good the innovation is on the individual, they are practically not scalable.
It's fragmented.
They're fragmented. It's not negative. It's a very positive experience, because every improvement that you can do is a wonderful thing. But the thing is that we do not do as much as we could.
But so you're highlighting, if you go into the industry of I'm sure there are numbers on how big the industry for assistive technology is, and then you could take it simply into healthcare, and you could find out hundreds of use cases, but they are very application centric. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And they're not platform centric.
Yes.
Where the individual is the platform.
And they're not digitalized because they all are connected to physical experience. So you have a lot of stuff around you, and it's and as I said, the most important thing is that we have to respect every single innovation, and every single innovation is great. And so every single thing that we can do to help people with limitations to have a better experience and to improve, it's wonderful. But it's not criticism. It's like it's the need to do more, and it's possible. But
also I think one interesting when they released ChatGPT or GPT 4.5, which is like 3 weeks ago or something, it wasn't really that much better in some benchmark, but it was supposedly much better in emotional intelligence. And I was thinking first, this is connected to what you're saying, but I actually don't think it is, because what you're saying is more, we need to fix the data engineering, we need to have the sensory data, we need to have the way to really understand and want to do the best for the person. And I think what GPT 4.5 is potentially good is making you believe it is doing something good for you, but not really wanting you the best. And it doesn't really have that information.
It doesn't have a policy. It's just
trying to do the best it can to make you think it wants to. It's not bad in itself, but I mean, what you're saying, I think you could find easier solutions than this that simply have the proper data engineering in place to be able to understand what the true feelings are, so to speak, or the true state in some way is, which is a very different thing.
Who would be the ideal startup or incubator to run with this idea? Would it be Google DeepMind? Would it be Daniel Ek's? I can see preventative healthcare, and now individual. How would you dream about who should be inventing? How should that be realized?
I think potentially everyone who wants to invest is great to invest, but I think if you do not understand the purpose, you need to have a humanistic perspective. You cannot come with a technology perspective. So you need to have a humanistic.
This is what I mean. Who is the perfect innovator, incubator that has this humanistic perspective?
Look, I would never say no to Daniel Ek without I don't know him. I would never say no to anyone, because no one ever had talked to me about it. And this is the first time for me talking about my book in this way. So, but I think that having a humanistic and approach to make this world better for those who are in need, I think that would help a lot. And then if you come with the ability of, you build a wonderful thing and you build a global capability, it helps a lot, because what I'm very much into is that I want to make that technology affordable, accessible, and it must be personal. So these are the
affordable, accessible, personal.
Yeah, it's very important, because you should never ever set the objective based on the technology. The technology should help you to set your objective.
Well put.
Well put. But it's an interesting topic in so many ways.
Yeah. What can people expect with reading your book? What will they learn, you think?
They will learn that I'm a dedicated father. I'm very proud about our family. My wife, who was fighting a lot, while she's the risk-averse person, I'm the other part of the story. And my son, so who is there with his love and dedication, and never ever complaining about a life that he wouldn't have chosen. And likewise, my son, born with this severe problem, smiling every day and having fun, and he is laughing. He's laughing most in our family. So he's impressive, and I want to make sure he will continue to experience life this way.
But I think the book title, Empowering Human Autonomy, is actually very timely when we have this whole argument and we have the narrative of AI replacing humans or engineers or whatever it is. And actually, we want to have AI agents, we will have AI that makes us all geniuses or augments us. And I know, for example, Sana, the AI Sana startup, they are doing a very strong... they're launching in America right now, and they are pivoting in terms of how you build AI knowledge agents for human genius, like use the marketing branding. And I think this is so important in the whole narrative of how we want to understand and steer AI. We want to steer AI to, not to replace us, but to make us shine. And if that is, you have an extreme edge case here, if I use tech jargon to describe your son. But in reality, it's a profound message. How do we build AI and how do we tackle this, so we end up winning and end up benefiting from it?
I think my title, you don't know how many hours I spent working on my title. But I think it's like the title doesn't say so much, but it says so much. Exactly as you just, phrased it, Henrik. I fully agree, because it is an expression for every individual to live and embrace the opportunities with AI and to grow with it rather than to suffer from it.
Yes.
And it's, given the interest of time, I think we should move to potentially the last more philosophical question. And I think the title actually is very apt when coming to that.
Perfect segue.
If we, Ingo, at some point have AGI that is better than most humans and potentially is on par with an average co-worker. That's Sam Altman's basic definition of AGI, and we're far from it yet, but it's moving very rapidly, and we could imagine in X number of years us having AI that is on par or even above humans. And then we can think about it in two extremes. Either you go exactly opposite to your book title, which would be the Matrix and the Terminators of the world, where the machines try to control humans and even kill humans to a rather large extreme, or potentially the other one. And perhaps that is really where AI is really trying to empower human autonomy, as your book title is, where we actually are having control of the AI. And AI is working for us and our beliefs, and perhaps is helping us to solve your kind of mental issues. And we have curing cancer and other disorders and problems that we have, even climate crisis that we're starting to see, and who knows, perhaps fixing the energy crisis and have fusion energy driving our society, and so many more things. What do you think, Ingo, the future will be? In which of these two extremes do you think we will end up in 5, 10, 50 years?
You mentioned Sam Altman and the perspective of reaching AGI. Whenever this is the commercial AGI, is probably happening faster than the let's say the global AGI or the universal AGI. Yes. But if we, I think he said it this way: yes, we will reach AGI probably faster than we think, but until then we have great companies. So I haven't heard that. Yeah, that's a very, very funny way of saying until that day we have as much fun as we can. I look at it differently because I don't have his wisdom. So my view of looking at it is like you phrased it very well. So you both should continue writing my book, and it's getting really good. No, but the thing is that I believe in the in empowering autonomy, and to understand how important autonomy is, you need to spend time with my son, because then you learn about what is needed to leverage someone who does not have autonomy. And if you understand, what autonomy is, it goes all the way through life. It's nothing that is only a challenge for people like my son. Autonomy is also, what's happened to you when you go through education and so on. So I believe that AI, when coming to AGI, it should empower us individually, collectively, grow, but with the values that we want to share. And if this is possible, I don't know, but if it's a commercial AGI, it will not be this scenario.
Yeah. There's a big risk for that, right?
Yeah. So the commercial AGI, or the AGI that is not inclusive, or basically is profiting the few, or we have talked about AI for greed, AI for control, and AI for good, so to speak. And if we want AI for good, and AI for good has something to do with empowering human autonomy, what are the things that we need to really start working on to go in this direction? Or how can I vote? I say it sometimes, vote with my wallet. How can we all try to push principle driven, value driven, making decisions here and now that nudges? How can we nudge in the right direction?
I think it starts with respect, integrity, and the values that we need to agree upon. And it's not so much about the governance, because the governance is always the first thing people mention. But maybe you need to understand the why. So
deeper.
Yeah. So go deeper. Rethink before you set governance, because governance is nothing else than the consequence of the acceptance level that you set, how much you want to protect yourself or not. Maybe this is where the interface is between you. So when we talk about, it's my last chapter in the book, the fusion between machines and humans. So when this fusion is happening, you need to make sure that you have a very clear and let's say working relationship between those two. And that is very much about governance. You mentioned another example, which is also very interesting to look into. But I think that if you would own a digital twin, and the digital twin would be the direct connection to the agent, the robot that you might have in your household that would take care of my son, that would be the governance that would come into place when you've set the boundaries in terms of learning and values. That's where I would.
Yeah, but because I think it's interesting. You talk about something here that how practically to have to get from governance into code into the policy of your digital twin. But at the same time, I know that you're also in some ways a little bit skeptical how we over-regulate in Europe. So on the surface it seems like you're in two different camps, but I don't think you are, because the problem is when we have rushed into regulation for regulation's sake without understanding the deeper whys and the deeper what are we starting with the respect and. Because this is really tricky, right? In one way, it's not governance. In one way, it is governance.
Yes. Now we talked about a lot of things that are very personal, very deep. It's emotional stuff. It's very difficult. It's 22 years of my life that I dedicated to create a better life for my family. But this is a question that I could I think answer again with football. You can never get a team to play in the Champions League and win the Champions League if you don't give them a ball.
No. That's it.
Give them a ball. Yeah, that's a very symbolic
if we have
measure.
Nothing,
you need to have the freedom.
We have so many regulations, so they don't get out of the dressing room.
Yeah, but you cannot regulate the ball away from football if you want the team to play football, because then they can't play football. It's like
such a great ending metaphor. I think we need to have humans having the ball in some way. Thank you so much, Ingo Paas, for coming here. I hope you can stay on for some off-camera kind of continued discussions in so many interesting topics. But I also very much hope that we will have the vision that you have, I think, described very nicely of a digital twin working for humans coming true, and I hope especially for your son that's not going to take too long. And I got a lot of thoughts and inspiration from you, so thank you so much for coming.
Awesome. And also the episode, Ingo. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.